All right, we're going live.
All right,
You might need to speak up a little bit.
I'll do so.
Okay. Okay, I think we're live. Hey, everybody, it's Uncle Grumpy. Give me a minute here. I'm going to see if, make sure this is working and we get this shared right. Okay. Hello, Lawrence. How are you doing today?
I am doing all right. I'm not sure if we're live though.
Okay. Let's see. I'm checking the page. Looking on the OCNN. Yep. And we are live. All right. Yep, we are. We got it.
Okay.
Folks, we're trying out some new software today. Hopefully you guys are getting a good picture. Let us know if you have good video quality and sound quality. Lawrence, you might have to speak up a little bit, or I just might need to push those earbuds in a little better. I don't know.
Well, if
Um,
I'm quiet, people could mention it. I might need to get a microphone. I just have one built into my webcam here.
okay, yeah, that might be it. All right, yep. Live and sounds good. All right, we got people joining in. Hello, everybody. Hello, Anthony, Linda, Lawrence. It even says you're watching. What a deal.
Oh, it
Hello,
looks like
everybody.
it says
Hey,
that I'm.
before we get
Yeah,
started, what? Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I just noticed that it has me down as Chris Moe, which I will change now.
Oh, okay. Well, that's because the way you're logged in. Yeah. All right. Well, before we
That
get
should be
started, folks, we got a really good show tonight, but we don't get anywhere if we don't first mention the sponsors. So thank you to Scissortail Law in Oklahoma City, Green Country Bud in Tulsa, and Sweetleaf in Bartlesville for helping sponsor the show. If it wasn't for sponsors, we couldn't do what we do. And don't forget, get your, as you can see here, get your Grumpy Gear shirt, the new blue one, at Green Country Bud or at Sweetleaf, and wear it back in the dispensary or any other Grumpy shirt you have and save 20%. So that's a heck of a deal just for wearing a shirt. All right, let's see. I got to share this to, at least back to my page. So, Lawrence, we've got a few things to talk about today. I hate to jump right into it all, but with what's going on, I think we might just have to. Um, we've got some, look, you guys know we worked real hard this last session to do what we could to affect the cannabis rules, to affect what the legislators passed, and we did make a difference. I think things would have been drastically worse had we not been there. But we have never been happy and have never said we were happy with the way things ended up. I've caught some grief for 2612, some people saying I was supporting it just days before it passed, and I explained, yeah, I was, because it looked different days before it passed from when it did pass. That happened with most of these bills, with 1030. Well, I don't know, that one never, I don't think that looked good from the beginning. But with most of these, things happened in the last few hours before these bills went through that we had no control over. Deals were made that we couldn't influence. You got to remember, we're not paid lobbyists. We're just citizens with a big mouth. So we got done what we could, but obviously came up real short. And what we want to do tonight is point out some of where we see some of the most drastic flaws with the legislation that's just passed. It is a mixed bag. There is a lot of good in there. Not that we've taken the time to emphasize that tonight. That's not what we're pointing out tonight. Tonight we're pointing out some of what's wrong. We've taken a break since the end of session. It's time to get back to work. As I've said before, we have to work this summer with the people we've already developed relationships with to help repair some of what went through last summer or last session. And what we're going to talk about tonight is some of that. So pull up a chair, get some notes, tell us what you think. Lawrence, why don't you take it for a minute and tell us what we're going to talk about tonight.
What we're going to talk about tonight is a section of Senate Bill 1030, Section 4, paragraph C in particular. And just as a little bit of background, Chris and I and Norma and others were watching all these bills as they went back and forth between the House and the Senate, and saw the changes and spoke our mind about those things that we were worried about. And we were assured that patient privacy would be protected. We were assured that the patient database would be the access would be limited to patients and the recommending physician. But even though that's what we were assured of, this provision in Senate Bill 1030 somehow appeared. And frankly, it surprised John Eccles as well. It was in the language that came from the Senate, and it was supposed to be removed. And Eccles, my understanding is, thought that it had been removed. When I brought it to his attention, he was surprised that it was still in there. And unfortunately, that happened too late. And it got signed into law. So as I see it, this is a poison pill. This is ruinous. This is disastrous.
Okay, now, first I want to point out, a lot of people are going to wonder, well, how'd this get through if Eccles didn't know? There's a lot of moving parts there, and nobody, I don't think, gets a full, what we would consider a complete picture of everything. Sometimes we count on others, or they count on others to help them in figuring out which direction to go. A lot of cases, they reached out to us. Different people still reach out to us during the session and ask which way to vote. So it's going to be easy, I know, for a lot to tear a lot of the House up for allowing this to happen. But, and I'm not here to make excuses for them. I'm not happy about it either. But this is how the game works. So what we've got to do now is just examine it and figure out what we're going to do about it. So go ahead, Lawrence.
All right. So this does seem to me like it was unintended from the House's part, that it's what the Senate wanted. The House intended to remove it, but it didn't get removed. So with this new software, assuming it works, I'm going to put up on the screen what might happen. Let me just run this, and Chris could manipulate it, I think. Chris, you tell me whether or not you could make this available to the audience.
Yeah, I think they're going to see it right now. It's probably going to, let me see, I'll verify that real quick. It should make that where everybody can see that, and let me blow it up a little bit. Okay, why don't you explain to everybody what they're looking at? There it is. Everybody's got it full screen.
All right. So what you see here is a mock-up. It's not something that's actually available at this time, but this is more or less the kind of thing that law enforcement, police officers sitting in their cruisers, if they want to look up your license plate or look up your driver's license, the cop might simply just spot you on the road and want to check on you, or they might pull you over for some kind of traffic infraction. And with your driver's license, they can basically call up your record. And what 1030 does is it requires, it doesn't simply give the Department of Health the option, but it requires that the Department of Health transmit to the law enforcement database the entire medical marijuana license database. Now, we'll talk about that language in a minute. But if that's construed as including patients, then law enforcement will have all the patient names, and they could correlate that with the driver's licenses and addresses and so on and so forth. And thus, if they pull you over for speeding or for a taillight knocked out or whatever, they could see immediately when they pull up your name that you're a marijuana user and when your card expires. So the danger, of course, is that they'll immediately want to do a field test. And, if they have any cause whatsoever to think that you're under the influence, then they could take you in and do a body fluid test. And the law as it stands right now, the DUI law as it stands right now, any level of THC metabolites, any level whatsoever in your system, determines that you're driving under the influence. So if you hadn't smoked for 3 weeks, you still could have the metabolite. If you're just using hemp, you could have the metabolite. And basically every single person with a card with any police encounter is now subject to losing their license.
Okay, once you go ahead and shrink that now, everybody's got a good look at that. Maybe we'll bring it back up in a few minutes. What that is, folks, is that's just like he says, that's just a mock-up. That's a worst-case scenario. Unfortunately, it's a scenario. It's a scenario that's quite possible. It sounds to me from the phone calls that we've gotten today and the conversations we've had today, that it's being argued about right now, that perhaps that is the poison pill. This could be that drastic. Now, we all hear about these little towns where they're still doing things the old-fashioned way. They're still looking for reasons to harass people. And if law enforcement has a way to get a list of patients in these small towns that don't like 788, that didn't like it to begin with, that have done everything they can, the places where like Jason Hicks is the district attorney, those counties, they're going to be subject to, as Lawrence has said here, DUI checks for holding a cannabis card. They're going to determine when they run your tag, which they can do without even pulling you over. They're going to run your tag in traffic, see that you have a medical marijuana card, decide you crossed the center lane or went a mile over the speed limit, or you have the one I always love is one of the 2 tag lights is burned out on your car, and that's reason enough to get you pulled over. So I know some are going to say, well, just refuse the test, and you can fight it because you will. If you refuse a test, you lose your license immediately. But you have 15 days to fight that. Go ahead.
I'm just noticing here in the comments. In the comments, some people are saying, well, we have HIPAA protection. Well, we don't have HIPAA protection. HIPAA has a much more narrow role than people think that it does. There is no HIPAA protection for medical marijuana for this patient database at the OMMA. And furthermore, right, for HIPAA's federal, there's not a HIPAA protection for any of this. And furthermore, while 2612 at the state level assigns HIPAA protections, 1030, which comes after 2612, if you interpret it the way in which law enforcement wants it to be interpreted, takes away that HIPAA protection. And in fact, the law requires the Department of Health to release information. So, it's not even a matter of being protected and fighting whether or not that's something that can be disclosed. The law requires that this database be disclosed.
That's crazy. Look, there's so many things like this that have happened since 788 passed. I mean, I find the safety-sensitive jobs to be such a walk backwards after the vote. This seems like another walk backwards. We pass this, we vote for this, this is how we want it, and then they go, no, we don't like that, we're going to take that away. So now we have no protections for people who are employed who get a cannabis card, nothing to do with whether or not you're impaired on the job. And now we have to worry when we drive down the road. Every one of us could lose our driver's license, or at the very least, in my particular case, if I get pulled over and I end up refusing the test and I lose my license, yeah, I'm going to fight it and whatever. I'm going to be a few $1,000s into this before everything is cleaned up. And no one's going to refund that money. The state's not going to give me back my attorney fees. I'm not going to be able to fight this myself. I'm going to have to pay an attorney. They're not going to do all this promo. Everybody's going to get pulled over. These little towns are going to find a way. They're going to find this to be their revenue stream that they lost when we voted for 788. What do you think, Lawrence?
Yeah. Think about it this way: the laws as they currently stand right now. People were worried about the compatibility between owning a firearm and marijuana. Basically, laws as they stand right now, having a driver's license and a marijuana license are incompatible.
Right.
Basically, what's
Because the
happening right
DUI,
now,
right, because the DUI
correct,
laws haven't been changed, right?
yeah. As soon as you get behind the wheel, you're in violation of the law. It's illegal to drive. And this gives basically law enforcement, you know, everything they need to take away the driver's licenses of every single marijuana card holder.
So while we may have a judge in Oklahoma City or Tulsa or one of the places that was pro 788, and there wasn't many, it was the people, not the places. So we get a judge that doesn't like cannabis, and you're going to lose your license. You're going to lose that appeal. You're going to go 6 months without your driver's license. They're going to use this. I know some are going to come back. Some of the lawmakers are going to come back that are probably watching this now, saying, well, we're already working on DUI legislation for next year to repair this. I know we've talked about working on some with Representative Fettgetter. Next year doesn't do any of these people any good right now. Next year doesn't change the minds of these little towns that want that revenue. Next year does not do anything for these people that are going to be put through the system because of what happened this year. So we need to figure out how to fix this right now. Right now. We can't wait till next year on this one. Too many things, too many of what we voted for, too much of what we voted for has been getting stripped away. And now this is, as Lawrence has said, this is definitely a poison pill. This could bring the whole thing crashing down. I mean, do you see it as that bad? I see it as that bad.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You lose your driver's license, you can't work. You're unemployed. So what does this do? It basically undermines your ability to make a living. You want to smoke pot? Well, the consequence is no job for you. No
And
car
let's
for you.
look, not to go down a different rabbit hole, but this is actually related. One of the issues I have here on my notes to talk about is the subsidized housing and the impact on people with medical marijuana cards. They're already refusing people their housing vouchers or telling them to turn your card back in. You have 14 days to show proof your card's been accepted back and canceled or lose your housing voucher. I got a call from a lady yesterday, lives on $700, $750 a month, gets half of her rent paid through a federal housing program, is very sick, was on disability before retirement, and now she's going to lose her housing and possibly her house because she got a card, because she took the legal route of getting a card, because we voted that we would allow this in this state. We said if enough people go vote for this, we will find a way to make this work in this state. And here we are. We've got people losing their housing. We've got people that could lose their driver's license. We've got people who can lose their job already. We've got people who've been fired already, as if 2612 was already enacted. There's lawsuits already filed about that. What has happened here, folks? What happened? This isn't what we worked for. This isn't what was supposed to happen. This isn't what, this isn't anything we can live with. It really isn't. This is the poison pill. Now the state is getting their tax money. They're taxing our medicine higher than any medicine in the country. But right now we have to worry about losing our housing and our ability to drive. But we'll still pay them 17% taxes when we go to get our medicine. That's just not right. It's wrong on so many levels. So Lawrence, we've got to do something about this besides just complain about it, obviously. So you've got some phone numbers for us, right?
Well, just from a Google search, I could put them up. Contact information for individuals in the Department of Health and the OMMA. So let me get that going.
Okay, guys, get your pens out again. Lawrence is going to share that on the big screen so we can all see it. There you go. So there's the compliance manager, operations and enforcement. That's call everybody, you know. I mean, start at the top. We need to call Tom Bates and
Adrian Rollins.
is this Adrian Rollins? We need to start with those two, and we all need to tell them that they need to not interpret this in such a way that they turn over that information. Now, explain, Lawrence, you've got more details on the law. Explain to us exactly what it is we need done here, how they need to view this.
So Senate Bill 1030, Section 4, Paragraph C requires the Department of Health to send the medical marijuana license database to the law enforcement computer system. But it doesn't say the patient database. It says the medical marijuana license database. The paragraph immediately before it, paragraph B, indicates that patients still have privacy, and it refers back to 2612, which had a large section on privacy, including basically applying HIPAA to the patient database. So paragraph B basically says patients are protected. Paragraph C then says the license database has to be handed over. If you read those two things together, then the reasonable interpretation is to say that the database, excluding what's protected, has to be handed over. And so there's other sections of 1030 as well, where, for instance, the Department of Health may only retain certain amounts of information, and that doesn't include the patient names. So that if you read all of this in context, then basically what's required from the Department of Health is just to release the commercial database. However, that paragraph C doesn't explicitly say the commercial or the business database. It just says generally
Right. And
the marijuana database.
Right. And what we know to be true is that law enforcement is asking for all of it. And that's a battle going on today.
Right. Right. My understanding is
some of our representatives and what's that?
My understanding is that Oklahoma Highway Patrol would like the entire database, including the patient database.
Yeah, there you go, folks. The Highway Patrol. Now, I remember last year when we were doing this, the lobbyist for OHP was one of the biggest opponents of 788 before we voted on it, when we were still arguing over 3468. It was the OHP and other law enforcement agencies that wanted the home inspections. They actually wanted to eliminate the home grow altogether, but they were willing to live with it with home inspections. Now, obviously, they didn't get their way, but here you go, folks. They wanted to inspect your house. Now they're going to look inside your car, because when that tail light is burned out or that tag light is burned out and you have a card, they're going to find a reason to search your car. So I do want to tell everybody out here, give you fair warning. Go check all your lights. Make sure your car looks fairly roadworthy, because they're going to be looking for any reason whatsoever to get inside your car. And unfortunately, it will be a hard one to fight. It will be. It will be. So what do we got here, Lawrence? 1030?
Yeah, so here's the key issue from 1030, Section 4C, and then I have the paragraph above it, which refers back to 2612, and then I have the salient section of 2612. So once again, if you read the whole thing in context, then the reasonable interpretation of C is that the Department of Health shall release the medical marijuana license database, excluding what's explicitly protected in other provisions of 1030, and referring back then to 2612. So everything but the patient database. That's, I think, a reasonable interpretation of C, and that's the interpretation that John Eccles, for instance, has, but that's not the way law enforcement wants to read it. Now, I spoke with Representative Fettgetter as well today, and he said that he spoke with the Commissioner for Public Safety, and the Commissioner for Public Safety, per my conversation with Fettgetter, was willing to forego the patient database. So at least one person within the whole circuit of law enforcement wasn't pushing that issue. But right now, as Chris said, there's a battle going on. There is a battle going on today. And all of you who want to remain gainfully employed, all of you who want to be able to continue to drive, you need to act. Because we're August 29th, it's a countdown. We are 1 month and 20 days away from basically you losing your right to drive.
Yeah, I see these little towns like Duncan and other places just having a heyday. The day after that comes into effect, they get access to the database and they start traveling the town. Suddenly, they're getting a whole lot more DUIs all over again. People are going to jail for cannabis again in small town Oklahoma, just like they want it. Their revenue stream will continue. They will find a way if we don't stop them. So we definitely need everybody to do something here. Make some phone calls. I love this picture. Every time I see this, it reminds me of the 80s. I keep thinking you're throwing Pablo Escobar up there or something. I don't know, something similar there.
Well,
but
that's basically what we'll be in for in this state. That's what basically they're going to have for every single driver with a cannabis card in this state.
Yeah,
and what do you think the law enforcement officers do when he sees that?
Well, he's going to get antsy. He's going to get curious. He's going to want to know what you're carrying. He's going to want to know what you've been smoking. The first thing he's going to do is ask you when the last time you smoked was. And then depending on when you answer, it's going to determine your field sobriety test. Hold on a second. I've got to deal with my dog real quick. Lawrence, you go ahead for a minute. Come on, get.
Well, this is the danger that in a lot of jurisdictions, as soon as this pops up that you have a cannabis card, they're immediately going to assume that you are under the influence, which by matter of law, you probably are. You may not be impaired. You may not be cognitively impaired, but if you have any metabolite whatsoever in your system, if you smoked 60 days ago, you may still have it in your system. And so technically, as a matter of law, you're in violation of the law just by driving, even if it's been 60 days since you've used any cannabis, even federally legal hemp. And they'll want to just take you out of your car immediately, do a field sobriety test, and, right, if they have any cause or, they want to have cause, that's it. They'll take you in.
Yeah, they could just say they smell marijuana.
Yeah.
I mean, look, that's all it's going to take. That's all it's going to take is an officer saying, I smelled marijuana. I felt it was necessary. I felt he was impaired. I felt it necessary to search his car and count his roaches and, everything. It's going to get bad. This gives permission to small town Oklahoma to keep it up. Places like Rogers County, up there with Scott Walton, they will just have a heyday with this. I mean, this should send a chill down the backs of every card holder in Oklahoma.
Driving days are over.
What's that?
Your driving days are over.
They could be. They could be. All right, a couple other things I want to point out.
Let me just
What's
say,
that? Go ahead.
I just want to say to everybody, don't assume this is going to get fixed on its own. This can be fixed, but the only way in which it's going to get fixed is if our lawmakers know that we are mad as hell about this. Make your calls to your local representatives.
Yeah, everybody should know, we've been working behind the scenes on this same exact issue for what, 2-3 weeks now, for a while, waiting for something to be done.
I've been screaming about this ever since I saw it back in April, May.
But we thought it was gone, remember? Even Echoes
we were
thought
told
it was gone.
but it wasn't. Yeah.
Right, until after the session was over, we thought it was gone. So, we've been talking about it since then. We've been talking behind the scenes with them about it. And until it blew up today online, until we sent them a message. We were doing a show about it until it really became a hot topic. It didn't seem to me like much was getting done. So we're going to have to ask everybody to raise some cane about this one. We really need to let our voices be heard. If we want, as Lawrence has said, this could be an easy clerical fix or administrative fix. It comes down to how they determine, how they decide to interpret a few simple lines. If they do it correctly, and they do it all together in context, as Lawrence has explained, then they should come to the conclusion that patient information should not be part of what they're turning over. Now, I don't know why they need to turn over business information either, but right now, today, it's my patient card and your patient card that I'm worried about. The businesses need to be worried about their business license information too. Is this just to verify when they pull you over and you have 10 pounds that your paper license is legal? Well, can't they just call it in just like they do with as Lawrence and I were talking about earlier, and Lawrence was saying they could call it in just like the same system that the dispensaries use to verify patient information, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's right. If they wanted to, they could simply just get the patient code number to verify the card. They don't need the patient database. The patient database, if they had it in their hands, what it's all about basically is harassment. What it's all about is basically just, them gaining victory out of the clutches of defeat.
Yeah, I don't see any justification for this at all, or any positive impact. Do you? Can you see any real, useful, good justification for this?
If they want to verify the data, they want to verify the validity of the card, that it's not a forged card, they could do that just in the same way that a dispensary can. There's no need for this. When it comes to business licenses, well, maybe the following situation: the police officer is on a property without any markings on it. They smell marijuana. They want to know if it's a legal grow or not. The officers might have his own sense of personal safety there. Is he going to walk into a criminal enterprise or something that's legal? And so I can understand why there is some reason for the business database to be there. But, it doesn't have to be. There's other ways of finding out. They could just make a phone call, right, to ask whether or not this address is the address of a marijuana business. But as I see it, once again, this was I don't know if I want to say a brilliant move, but a very strategic move on the part of the Senate wanting to basically slip something by, and they succeeded.
Yeah, this was not an accident. This was not an oversight. This was worded this way on purpose. I do believe you're right. They were trying to slip something by. I'm hoping we've caught it in time. If enough of us can react, perhaps we can fix this. As you've said, we've got, a little over a month, you said?
1 month and 20 days. We should begin the countdown.
So almost
50 days, basically.
So
until
think about this, as we're throwing out worst case scenarios. Last year we listened to the Chamber of Commerce say that they wanted to be able to fire anybody that ever used cannabis, that if you ever tested positive, if it was ever in your bloodstream, as far as they were concerned, you were impaired. Those were her words, the lady from the Chamber of Commerce. Now, we thought we fought them off last summer, and then in 2612, in the middle of the night, the Senate slips in this part on these
safety-sensitive
workplace restrictions or safety-sensitive jobs, and basically gives the Chamber of Commerce what they were asking for last summer, the right to fire anybody who gets a card, not for being positive or being impaired, but just for getting a card, just for participating in a legal program. So, worst case scenario. Could you imagine, because I know I could, next year we're fighting with the Department of Transportation, who wants to pull all the driver's licenses of everybody who has a medical marijuana card. who just wants to cancel everybody's license and wants to make you choose between one or the other. As outrageous as that sounds, I could see that scenario being an argument next year.
That's the intent of this. That's the intent. If you have a cannabis card, you're not legally allowed to drive. That's obviously the intent. And that's the law actually right now. Because you are impaired by law, right? For any THC metabolites. You can be doing something that's federally legal, consuming just hemp. And according to Oklahoma laws right now, as soon as you get behind the wheel, you're in violation. There goes your license.
So perhaps we call the governor too? Is there anything, I don't know if there's anything legally the governor can do, is there?
He could give guidance, he's basically the executive in charge of, all of the departments. So, he can give guidance to the Department of Health on how to interpret these.
Okay, then let's do that, folks. Let's also call the governor's office and let's tell him that we want to make sure that the Highway Patrol, because that's who it is, does not get patient information as a block of information. They don't need that access. They can get it individually. When we hand them our cards, they should be able to look at that number or verify that number just like a dispensary, and that's it. So
otherwise
let's call the governor.
Yeah. We're going to have 150,000 more unemployed people in the state of Oklahoma because nobody will be able to get to work.
And we're going to increase the homeless population because those that got a card to save their lives are going to get kicked out of their house because they can't afford their mortgage or their rent because the Oklahoma Housing Authority has decided that they don't want them there because they have a cannabis card. And I think in the paperwork I sent you about that, the lady in charge of that says that if you're already in a house and you have a card, meaning if you're not a new case, then it will be left up to the landlord, right? So now our landlord gets to decide if we get medicine. Not just, this isn't about growing, okay? I understand you got to get landlord's permission to grow. I get that. I don't like it, but I get it. But this is just about having a card. This isn't about consuming. Right. It's just about having a card. So this is crazy.
I personally know individuals who have a cannabis card who do not consume marijuana. I know people who they use federally legal hemp, but just, to avoid any problems with law enforcement, they got a cannabis card. Having a cannabis card doesn't mean that you're using anything that's psychoactive. And it's absurd to think that anybody could be denied anything for having just the card.
Yeah, and now it's going to mean that you're going to lose your right to drive, your ability to work, the house you live in. They're going to make us pay. I feel like they're trying to make us pay. The Senate is trying to make us pay. Now, we need to remember, folks, next year's an election year. Not only do we argue with these people during the session next year, starting in February, but next November, after that session, when they've all pissed us off beyond belief, when they've had to stand there and justify this stuff, we get to vote. And a whole group of them that we didn't get to vote on last time, we get to vote on this time. Because with the senators, it's the way it works. So we've got a chance to really change the Capitol next year, and it starts today. It really does. It starts today. Now, let me mention, you guys saw a post I did last week. Lawrence and myself and Norma and Julia Zell are going to meet tomorrow, and we're going to start talking about the town hall meetings. Lawrence, can you go ahead and shrink that picture down?
Sure.
Okay, we're going to meet tomorrow and start talking about the town hall meetings. We've got a few places in mind. Some of you have reached out. We do need help in finding the venues. You guys know your town. You know your community. You can help us figure out where to do this. We want to get law enforcement, local law enforcement, and local elected officials involved in this. We want this to be an open, friendly meeting that we can all talk about the law as they really are, not the rumors on Facebook, and see if we can figure out ways to work together to deal with issues like this one we're talking about right now. This is a real scary situation right now. Since the passage of 788, we've slowly watched as they have stepped up to bat over and over again to try and take this away from us. And if this goes through, this is definitely them scoring some big points. It really is. We can't, this is going to hurt. And it could be stopped if enough of us get involved. If enough of us call, we can stop this. We can stop the housing authority. We can stop a lot of what's going on. But we've all got to get involved. The session may be over, but the work is just beginning. You have local elected officials and House and Senate members that are home now, but not at the Capitol working every day. So you can go find them. You can go track them down, as we've said. Go to their meetings, get them to come to yours, and start talking to these people. We've got to fix this. We've got to fix this quick. I'm getting a little dry throat there, Lawrence. You might want to talk. You're looking a little agitated. This one's got you upset, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Imagine if a law were passed that said that if you have any alcohol metabolites in your system, then you're driving under the influence. And those alcohol metabolites might be in your body, well, they're effectively in your body for about 4 or 5 days. So on a Sunday afternoon, you drink a beer with some friends watching a football game. Tuesday evening, not consumed any alcohol since Tuesday evening, you get pulled over. And they do a body fluid test, and they find that alcohol metabolite, and they decide that you're under the influence of alcohol, and you lose your license. This is absurd. It's just absolutely absurd. It's completely unscientific. And how in the world can we be living in a place where the laws don't even cohere with science? This is voodoo. This is superstition. This is not a rational society to do this.
It doesn't have anything to do with anything other than money. It's a way to generate money. That's all it is. It doesn't have to meet any sense of norm as long as they get their money. That's really what it's come down to. We are the cannabis users. We are less than. Whatever they do to us is just part of the game. We should accept it and go on. That's been the way it's been for years. They want to continue that. They want to continue to make us victims of the system. They want to continue to destroy lives by arresting people for something they never should have been arresting people for. All right, a couple other things I want to mention while we're on here. And Lawrence, this is right up your alley because you had mentioned we should do this before. Somebody in the Oklahoma City area has reached out to me looking for some White Widow. So if you guys know of a dispensary out there that's got some White Widow that is not $20 a gram, because that's all they can find, please post that somewhere in the comments so that they can find it. I think $20 a gram is just getting ridiculous. And then also in the Oklahoma City area, we've got somebody else who needs a pain management doctor who's cannabis friendly. So I know there's a few of those there. I couldn't think of any off the top of my head. I'm hoping one of you guys watching can sound off a couple of names in the Oklahoma City area of doctors. What's that?
North or south? Well, let us know what part of the city, north or south.
Okay, I don't know. They didn't tell me. I'll have to find out. And then I've got somebody in the Ada area that needs some RSO for a cancer patient. I was telling him about the Penny RSO program. I don't know where all those dispensaries are. If one of you guys know or can post a list, if there's one in the Ada area, I know they're watching the show tonight. Let's find them some RSO for their friend with cancer, please. Also, the Muskogee Area Chamber of Commerce, this is going to be fun, on June 16th at 2 p.m. is going to be doing a meeting for businesses to understand how to deal with the medical marijuana program. So I'm really looking forward to hearing if they are, if they're dealing in craziness, or if they come at this from a realistic, possibly even scientific perspective. I don't know. The Chamber of Commerce as a whole has been one of our biggest opponents. So I don't see how this is going to be different, but we'll see. This is Muskogee. They say they're cannabis friendly. We'll see how the chamber meeting goes. But if you guys can make it to that, that's 2 p.m. on the 16th in Muskogee at the Indian Capital Technology Center. So I'm going to be there for sure. If you're on the side of the state, Lawrence, you should come. Well, you're just looking way too happy, Lawrence.
No, not happy at all. Can I add something?
You can add whatever you want. Let's hear it.
We've talked about this before, but some people watching today may not have heard it, that the 2018 Farm Bill removed THC from Schedule 1 when that THC is derived from hemp. Section 12619 of the Federal Farm Bill from 2018 amended the Controlled Substances Act so that tetrahydrocannabinol, when it's from hemp, is no longer an illegal drug. It's no longer a federally scheduled drug whatsoever. Therefore, what that means is if your employer were to have you do a drug test and it tests positive for THC, it doesn't follow thereby that you have used anything illegal. That THC may have come from hemp, and thus the employer who were to terminate you on the basis of a positive THC test opens themselves up to an American Disabilities Association, American Disabilities Act lawsuit. Because if you're using the hemp for medical purposes, then they cannot take this adverse employment action against you. They would need to find instead an accommodation. If you're terminated for a positive THC test, then the employer risks an ADA action against them. Bear that in mind, everyone. Employers need to address this.
You know, that's another contradiction. You were talking about how 1030 contradicts itself in some cases. This is the federal government contradicting itself, and they're the ones setting the tone. It's the federal government that set the tone that has allowed the states to, where they have medical marijuana programs, to allow them to decide whether or not to allow people with a medical marijuana card in the housing program. They're giving them the option to continue to oppress or not to, leaving it up to the state. And unfortunately, in this particular case, our state is choosing to continue to oppress, in my opinion, and do it from a standpoint of, oh, well, we're just following the federal law. They're just using excuses to cut their budget, is what they're doing.
And
Okay,
everybody,
well,
everyone who's receiving a housing voucher as well. Hemp is a lot cheaper than marijuana. And so hemp looks like marijuana, hemp smells like marijuana, and perhaps people in federal housing should just be using hemp.
Or at least have some around for when they come raid their house so they can file a lawsuit. You know, that's something I hate to encourage, but I can tell you that if the OMMA releases all this patient information to law enforcement, if they give them just what they want, I think that every one of us need to file a lawsuit. I think the 150,000 plus patients of Oklahoma need to file a class action lawsuit.
Yeah, it'll happen. I pretty much can guarantee that.
It's going to have to. It's going to have to. Okay, well, Lawrence, I think we're going to wrap it up. Unless you've got something you want to add, something else while we're here.
I can go on about this. I'm just disgusted.
Okay, well then we're going to wrap it up before you stroke out on us. We're going to need you for the next show, so you need to get maybe. Well, you don't really use THC products. I was going to say maybe you need to Do something to try some CBD. As you were just saying,
I'll
try some CBD.
drink my delicious seltzer. That's about as crazy as I get.
Wow. Oh man, you are a wild man.
It's
That's
bubbly
great.
water, you see.
Oh man, you are just on the edge. You're living on that, riding that line of just danger, man. Next thing you
I'm
know,
a
you'll be
wild
riding
man.
a
I gotta drink my
motorcycle, and
seltzer.
next thing you know, I'll see you riding a motorcycle, and I'll run into you in one of these biker bars.
Yeah, I'm gonna drink my seltzer and proofread a translation of a Latin textbook from 1763. That's my evening.
Wow. Okay, I'm not sure what to say about that. I'm really not. So I'm not going to say anything. I'll let everybody else ponder that one. All right, couple more things. Don't forget, get your Grumpy Gear shirt. Wear it in the Green Country Bud in Tulsa, 89th and Yale, or Sweetleaf in Bartlesville. Save 20%. You can get shirts there as well. I'm going to try and have them available online in the next couple of days if I can take a few minutes to set up a website. Something I just thought was too hilarious I saw earlier, so I have to jump on this one. Cody at Left-Handed Okie, this one is for you. He did a video earlier that just had me rolling. He asked everybody to take a moment of silence for Billy Dunn's beard. If you haven't seen, Billy Dunn has shaved off his beard. I don't think anybody's seen him without his beard, so now Billy's running around without a beard. It's a hilarious video. Go see it. Cody did it. He gives a moment of silence to Billy's beard. It's hilarious. You guys got to check it out. So he's right. Billy looks like he's about 12 years old now. So feel sorry for Billy. He lost his beard. I don't know what happened. I don't know.
Billy lost his
Anyway,
beard.
don't forget. What's that?
It could be a song. Billy lost his beard. Could be a good
It,
country
it,
song.
it could be. It could be. He's got a guy who does music on his show. You can get him to write him a little something about the loss of his beard. I
He
just thought
now
that was
looks so
too hilarious.
weird. Billy lost his beard. So what we all feared.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up before Lawrence breaks out in song. All right, folks. Well, thank you for watching. Again, thank you to the sponsors. Don't forget, get your Grumpy Gear shirts. Lawrence, thank you for coming on. Let's do this again in a day or two if you got time. I will see you tomorrow at our meeting. Folks, pay attention to what we're doing here. We want your input. We want you to tell us where you want us to come. We want to go where you want us, where you need the help. We're going to bring as much information as we can. It's all going to be free. We're not hosting some class where we're charging things, okay? We'll find some sponsors to help pay gas to get us there. We're just trying to help everybody. So help us by staying involved and letting us know what you'd like next. We will also talk at this meeting about the next year's full access petition. Let us know what you want in that too. This is going to take everybody. If we don't unite, this won't happen. And we will continue to deal with things like the possible loss of our ability to drive, work, or live in Oklahoma if we get a medical marijuana card. It's like we suddenly said it's legal, but then we changed everything so that it's not. But you still get the piece of plastic. You get to pay the fee, you get the plastic. You just lose everything else in your life. This has to stop. We have to make it stop. We need everybody to help. All right, folks, that's it. Until next time, stay grumpy. I'll see you on the road.